Spirit Lodge inside his base, even though he knows for a fact that Zayat's army is not, or the majority of Zayat's army anyway, he doesn't know where the blade is. He knows Zayat's army is not at his base, so he could have probably safely built both his lodge and his bestiary outside his base. And the reason that that's a good thing, or at least something I would choose to do, is that you don't have to chop down trees to break your block, and all throughout the game the Blademaster can't enter your base. Anyway, Zayat uses the speed burst and almost kills Grubby's hero, so Grubby's forced to port. Sure, he loses the town portal, but very worthwhile on his part when you look at how delayed Zayat's tier 2 is. His lodge is just going up now, whereas Grubby's is completed, and Grubby's bestiary is at 90%, whereas Zayat doesn't even have a bestiary in construction yet, and Zayat's only now building his third burrow, which is around 90% as well. So that's a pretty big advantage for Grubby, and if you're in Zayat's position right now with your level 3 hero, you cannot sit back and creep, and this is why Zayat is attacking, and this is something I want to explain in as much detail as I possibly can. You have to pressure when you're at this disadvantage. It's not ideal to pressure, but you cannot sit back and creep and let him creep as well, because when he comes to push you, he'll have the better army and equal hero levels, if not better hero levels, because he has a better armor to creep with. So anyways, Zayat is pushed while Grubby has continued to harass Zayat's base. And Zayat, if you look at Zayat's base, he still does not have tier 2. And yes, Grubby just lost a grunt, so in theory he's actually down in unit count, in theory. But looking at his base, his first walker's out, he now has Spirit Link, which means that at any time Zayat's near his base, he can take some peons, link them with his grunts, and nothing's going to die. So Zayat cannot fight him at his base. He can hope for a hero kill here, which you'll notice he does, but just at the wrong time. And Grubby's Blademaster escapes. Here's where, at 8 minutes, I'm not going to ask you to pause, but I just want you to think about the game from Grubby's perspective. He was just in Zayat's base, he knows Zayat has no tier 2, and he knows Zayat's army is on Zayat's side of the map. So the first thing he does is take his Shadowhunter and creep something big, and this camp will give him an instant level 2. So that's an interesting decision on Grubby's part. He knew originally that Zayat was pressing his base, so he didn't risk fighting it. He didn't have his Blademaster there. There's no reason to fight. He can just stay at his base where with the safety of the burrows and the peons. But when he found out that Zayat had left his side of the map, Grubby's side of the map, he went out and creeped. So now Grubby actually has 3-2 versus 3-1, and he's made up the experience deficit that he had lacked from not creeping. And on Zayat's perspective, he still does not have that bestiary, and not even the lodge up yet. So really dire situation for Zayat. If you compare food counts, it's 34 versus 46. That's a pretty big difference, pretty huge difference, to be honest. So Grubby does the logical thing when he has an advantage, he pushes. And it's true, certainly, in general in Mirror, you want to race to level 3 Shadowhunter and fight with that. And that's one way to get an advantage, is to creep for level 3 faster and then push, because level 3 Shadowhunter, the level 2 wave, is considerably better than level 1 wave. But Grubby has Link and Ensnare times 2, because he has 2 Raiders, and Zayat does not. So it doesn't really matter who's microing. You just cannot beat Grubby's army with the 4 grunts and the 2 heroes. So logically, he pushes. This isn't even... I'd love to talk about micro, and I will talk about specific micro decisions in my future games, in the games you'll see me play, because I definitely cannot play like Grubby here. But it didn't even matter, truthfully. There was pretty much nothing Zayat could have done, micro or no micro. The truth is, he just dug himself into too deep a hole to be able to come back. And still looking at the food, it's 50 versus 37. Really no chance for Zayat to pull this game out, particularly when he's fighting against Link and Healing Wave. I mean, how do you fight that? And then you can't even micro, because whatever Grubby focuses will be ensnared, and the best you can hope for is to focus something that's hexed, and therefore has slower movement speed. So, really well played by Grubby, and Zayat's going to say good game pretty soon. Pretty much complete rape. And that pretty much demonstrates why. I mean, it's really important either to defend your base when you're being harassed or to block it off entirely. I mentioned that there are ways to get around the base block. Zyot, not long ago, played an Orc Mirror on Echo Isles, and I thought he did something really original. He took his scout peon and put it to the back of his opponent's base, who had blocked off his base, and then, 3 or 4 minutes after his hero came out, he crept level 2, bought a Staff of Teleportation, and teleported to the peon. So now he's inside the Orc's base, and the Orc has no way to get to him, and he's just wreaking havoc on the peons. That's one way to get through the block. Another way is, of course, the Zeppelin harass. Really not as worthwhile in Orc Mirror, but it's always a possibility. So yeah, that's a 10-minute game that was really not at all close, and those are two very, very good players. It's not like there's a huge skill difference between Grubby and Zyot. Was it micro? No, not at all. It was decision making. It was choosing to harass instead of creep. It was creeping intelligently when Grubby knew where Zyot was on the map. It was those smart little decisions that Grubby made that Zyot did not, and that forced Zyot into a very difficult position. And it just shows, the whole game, Grubby was aggressive. His Blademaster spent the majority of the game inside Zyot's base. Anyways, get game 2. Get game 2 up. Pause that at the 1 minute mark. 1x speed, Fog of War off, and on my point of view. Game 2 is also on Tyrannistan. And I'll talk more about decision making. It's not one of my better games. I do win, but I don't play very well. I play very sloppily, actually. But you'll still get an idea of at least what was going through my head, because I can tell you firsthand. I'm versed live only twice. I really can't tell you very much about him. I've played him on ladder a few times, but I don't know what clan he plays for off the top of my head. I've never seen him in a league match. So yeah, but he's a pretty talented Orc player. He's got a pretty good record. It's a pretty interesting game, and I think I actually pull myself into a pretty big disadvantage early on, and then I make some intelligent decisions to get out of that advantage, so I wanted to talk about that. Anyways, 1x speed, Fog of War off, my point of view, get the game unpaused in 3, 2, 1, unpause. Unfortunately, I got the worst spawn to do a base block. I like live only twice or Grubby's spawn better, because you can do Grubby's build, and it's a pretty easy block. What I've done will block my base off, but it's not as elegant. You'll notice the burrow on top is exposed, and even my southern burrow is going to be exposed when you see it coming up. Huge difference between us already is that I'm sending out the scout peon. I'm really not familiar with this player, so I don't know if he's going to Farseer me or not. If he does Farseer me, I would build the lounge closer to the creeps. That's the only thing I'd change in my build, and the reason for that is that if I build it in my base, he can come with the Farseer and cancel it. And actually, I build the lounge south anyways, which is I don't particularly know why I did that. But anyways, I've scouted. He is not. I don't understand his decision not to scout. Possibly he knew. I have a pretty big reputation as a Blademaster user, but can't really answer. He's actually used Farseer versus me before too. That's another reason I'm scouting, not taking it for granted that he's going Blade. Anyways, you'll notice we do similar creeping patterns. We're both going for the level 2. He chooses to go right for the Renegade Wizard. I honestly don't think this makes much of a difference. You get the item faster, I guess, if I had straight harassed, but that's just not a likely thing for me to do. So, for all intents and purposes, we've gone with the same build. I'd like you once again to note his build. It's tight. It's a tight base build, but so it's not terrible versus Blademaster harass. But his peons are exposed, whereas mine are not. Unfortunately, if you look south of my base, Gosu that I am, I've trapped a grunt with a bad rally, and I do that frequently. It's very unfortunate. And you're going to see that's actually going to cost me fairly large. It's going to cost me. Let's just put it that way. So to free the grunt, I'm forced to chop wood south of my base, which exposes my wood peons. Not ideal. I sell my port and buy a circlet. I would have done that if this was a more recent